Okay. A very good morning once again to all the doctors. Now we start on with our second session. I would like to invite our chairperson, that is Dr. Nichlani VK. Good morning, sir. Welcome you to Hall Kelvin. I request Dr. Nichlani to please, I guess he is all over ready with the whole setup. I request Dr. Nichlani to please go ahead with the speakers. Thank you so much.
Hello, good morning, everyone. So, welcome to this session of 10 o'clock, which is basically meant for the beginners. How to learn phaco, the teething trouble. As we know that phaco surgery is an essential cataract surgery. Everyone has to learn this cataract surgery, and definitely it has got a learning curve. So once you start, you might take a little longer time or shorter time depending upon the availability of the cases that you operate and the supervision being done by the senior surgeon and your mentor. So the essential points while learning the phaco surgery, it is important to go ahead with the different steps of the learning. So here we are going to give a little brief and try to describe the essentials, basic protocols, the tips and the tricks where the PGs and the beginner can start their own setup, or maybe in the beginning they can start under the mentor. So the topic is learning phaco, the teething trouble. In this context, I would start with the acclimatization of the OT. Operation theater, can we stop the noise? Uh, OT is our basic workstation from where you make the patient satisfied while you are operating and giving the best results. Why it is necessary? Because you need to deliver the best. A smooth functioning and a tuning in OT will make you relax, calm, and you can have a proper attention to the operations what you're performing. So this is how you can deliver the best, make yourself comfortable, and thus you can give a best result to the patient. Patient becomes happy, and simultaneously your staff also get elated because they find a new good surgeon. Where to get acclimatized, particularly what are the places to be seen in operation theater while you are getting acclimatized? Since it is a new atmosphere, you need to get acclimatized to infrastructure, machines, manpower, OT staff, and this is a very important that before you start doing all these things, your surgery, a proper coordination among all these things has to be seen and to be evaluated whether you are fit enough to go ahead with the proper acclimatization. It is always advisable that you must observe if you are entering into a new operation theater, give at least 2 3 days to observe the senior surgeon, your mentor, and the OT staff that how they do the coordination with senior surgeons. So it is very essential to learn all these things. Uh, Wearing a loose OT dress is very essential because if OT dress is not loose, it is tight, you will find difficulty in maneuvering and your reach will be restricted while you are dragging the operating microscope head to the field of the operation, and while you are bringing the phaco handpiece or the instruments to and fro back from the position and back down to the position. So your OT dress has to be loose enough. It has to be a very comfortable one. Once you're comfortable with the OT dress, you don't have to pay attention particularly to the restriction of the manual that you're going to do, which might be restricted with a tight dress. Scrub room, try to see whether it is an automatic or the manual one. So you need to see the operation of the scrub room. And when you go in a main operation theater, try to see where the things are lined up. The phaco machine, the vitrectomy, the operating microscope, the OT table, the stool where you are sitting, and try to see whether they are in a proper reach of you or not. Try to adjust your sitting with the operation OT table particularly, and try to see where the stool is moving enough or not, because you need to move a little bit to and fro and side to side while you are operating. So a height of a stool and the movement of a stool in relation with with the machines particularly and the operation table must be fair enough so that you can have a proper reach to all these places. Acclimatization with the machines, the basic machines, particularly the phaco and the vitrectomy. You need to learn that how many machines are being kept in the operation theater, and what are the functioning and what are the basic settings of these machines that the senior surgeon or your mentor is doing. And definitely when you operate under him, he'll definitely give you the best suitable settings so that you won't come across any of the complication. But in a free time, you need to learn the phaco power, the irrigation aspiration, vacuum, and the other settings, the pulse mode, the micro pulse mode, the MUS mode. What exactly are those, and what how they have been incorporated in the different machine, and the basic vitrectomy machine. What is the limit of this machine? What are the different um, the the vitrectors of different gaze and their pressure measurements, they fit into this machine so that you get a proper vitrector of that size and that psi to work efficiently while you are going into other any other complication. Now you need to get acclimatized, particularly the different instruments of a different steps. So always have a tuning with your assistant in OT. He must show you that these are the instruments that we are using. So if you find that these all instruments of your use, you have been acclimatized, you have been conversant with these instruments, fine enough. Otherwise, you can tell your OT assistant that I need this variety of instrument at this particular step. This is a very important step that before operating, you must focus your operating microscope, because if variety of surgeons are focusing operating microscope, then definitely there will be change while you're operating any of the case. So before you operate, you try to see that the focus of the microscope is perfect or not. Change the eyepiece setting according to your need, and later on you can definitely mark those settings with your own calibration, because and sitting of the comfortable, reaching to the foot pedal, patient comfort in a proper bed is essential. To begin with, a cooperative patient start with grade 3 cases, take a help of anesthetist. Thank you. These were the few essential things I wanted to say. Thanks. And now we are coming to the next topic, that is understanding the machine. The understanding a machine is a very important. So I invite Dr. Paresh Nishlani to give brief about the machine.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. I would like to welcome everyone to this first ever virtual All India Ophthalmic Conference. I'll be speaking on the topic understanding the phaco machine. No financial interest. Let's take a second and thank Dr. Charles Calman for the innovation of this very beautiful machine, which we are now using daily. Aim of a good phacosurgery is low endothelial damage with very minimal use of power without any complication, less fluctuation inside the anterior chamber, and this gives a very great post-operative visual acuity. So component of the phaco machine can be divided majorly into three category. One is the ultrasound power, other is the fluidic system, and the foot pedal. If we talk about the ultrasound probe, it gets is its energy from the vibrating piezoelectric crystal, which moves the phaco tip back and forth, creating a jackhammer effect. Frequency of each individual handpiece is fixed depending on the company and the phaco handpiece, while the stroke length can be variable depending on our settings which we set. If we talk about the component, we have one irrigation port, one aspiration port, one port for delivering the phaco energy, and the tip is covered by the sleeves. We have different tip size and sleeve size. The fluidics is basically the inflow and the outflow of the BSS from the eye. The inflow depends on the bottle height, or in advanced machine, the irrigation pressure, the bevel size of the sleeve or the sleeve size, the tubing system bore size. Outflow depends on the pump which we are using, the bore size of the tubing system and the phaco tip, and any leakage in the wound. So if we talk about different pump, there are majorly two pumps. First being the peristaltic and the most commonly used. The peristaltic pumps basically uses a roller which compresses the phaco tubing, creating a continuous milking action, which is responsible for the aspiration of the fluid from the eye and generation of the vacuum once the tip is occluded. Whereas in Venturi pump system, there's a high pressure, low flow air which is transmitted to make low pressure, high velocity, creating a vacuum which is transmitted to the eye via rigid drainage cassette. The basic difference being peristaltic pump is a flow base and Venturi pump is a vacuum based system. Vacuum is created only after the occlusion in peristaltic system, while in Venturi, vacuum is created instantly via the pump. Flow is constant until occlusion in the peristaltic pump, whereas in Venturi, the flow varies with the vacuum level. Drainage of the BSS is in soft bag in peristaltic, and the drainage in the Venturi is in the rigid cassette. Now we have to keep in mind that the balance between inflow and outflow should be maintained throughout. It should be either equal or slightly, inflow should be slightly higher. Why? Once the outflow increases the inflow, there's sudden shallowing of the anterior chamber, which we call surge, and it is very dangerous for the beginner surgeons. If we talk about the foot paddle settings, there are basically three steps. First being irrigation, it is all or none. Second being aspiration, it is usually continuous. And third stage being the phacoemulsification. There are also foot paddle in which we can directly shift to phaco energy from any part of the any level of the aspiration by twisting it outwards. The energy is basically calculated with the stroke length. Stroke length is the amplitude of the movement of the phaco tip. Higher the energy, higher will be the movement, back and forth movement. Now coming to the phaco power modulation, basically there are three phaco power modulation being used. One is the continuous, in which the power increases as we go forward in the stage 3, foot pedal stage 3. In pulse mode, the interval between on and off is decided, and the energy increases as we go forward in step 3. In burst mode, there the energy dissipated is kept constant, but as we go forward in this foot position 3, the interval between on and off cycle decreases, and at the end of the foot position 3, it basically turns into a continuous phaco mode. In newer machines like this White Star technology, the pulse is as small as 25 duty cycle, keeping your phaco tip very cool. Now coming on the advancement, we have torsional phaco. Rather than traditional back and forth movement, these torsional phaco system, they deliver a sideways movement or a circular movement, giving more efficiency and less energy required. There are different phaco tips available, different shapes and different size and different angulation. They all have their advantages in different settings. Talking about the basic phaco setting, I'll be discussing about the peristaltic machine. Basically, we have power. We can set power. The IOP is dependent on the bottle height or the irrigation pressure as in active fluidics. The aspiration can be set. It is basically the cc per minute withdrawal of BSS from the eye. And the vacuum, it is the holding force which we get. Now, depending on the different stages of the surgery, we should modulate the settings. Like in pre-chop mode, Our aim is to removal of the anterior loose cortical material. The bottle height should be low. Aspiration should be around 27 centimeter or low, and vacuum should be moderate. In sculpt mode, our aim is to create a trench in divide and conquer or stop and chop. So we don't need much of a holding force. So all the parameters should be kept low. Whereas in chop, we need to hold the nucleus firmly to divide it. So we have to have a high aspiration and high vacuum. To counteract this, we need to have a high bottle height as well. The settings should be similar in quadrant removal mode. All the parameters should be slightly higher. In epinuclear mode, we have to remove the soft epinucleus, but keeping in mind we should not touch the posterior capsule. So bottle height should be moderate and aspiration should be moderate, whereas vacuum, because we have to hold and aspirate, the vacuum should be slightly higher. In cortex removal, the purpose is to remove the adherent lens cortex from the bag. So the vacuum should be high. We also have to keep in mind the port size of the aspiration port in irrigation IA probe is very small. So we have to keep a high vacuum. Bottle height should be moderate and aspiration rate should also be moderate. While in visco removal, we have to thoroughly remove all the viscoelastic material. So we have to set all the parameters in high flow, high vacuum, and even high aspiration. To summarize, it was a very big topic, but I have covered it very briefly. To summarize, I just want to say we have to opt for appropriate settings to avoid any surge. We always have to keep in mind that inflow should be slightly more than the outflow. We should use pulse or burst mode rather than continuous phaco mode to give a cooling effect and avoid any wound burn or any complication. We have to customize our settings depending on the grade of nucleus, the step of surgery we are in, and the anterior chamber depth. Thanks for your patient listening. Have a good day.
Thank you, Dr. Paresh, for nicely covering the brief regarding the phaco machines, how to use them, and what are the settings to be required. We'll keep the discussion at the end of all presentations. So now I invite Dr. Rajan Gupta for giving us the tips regarding making the incision and phaco surgery. Kindly start the time, please. Dr. Gupta, you need to share your slide. Fine, go ahead. Make a slideshow.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. I am thankful to AIOS and Dr. Nichlani for giving me the opportunity in the basic instruction goals on the phaco. And my today's talk is on the incision making in the phaco emulsification. Construction of the incision is the most important step in the cataract surgery. It lays foundation of all additional steps of the surgery. It influences fluidics of the anterior chamber. It affects the corneal astigmatism. A watertight self-sealing incision prevents the infection. So what should be the prerequisite for the perfect incision? It should be secure, it should be self-sealing, astigmatically neutral, it heal fast, and appropriately sized, means it should not be very tight or it should not be very wide. Now come to the types of the incision in phacoemulsification surgery. According to the anatomical side, there are three types: sclerocorneal incision, corneal incision, and limbal incision. Now first come to the sclerocorneal incision. The sclerocorneal incision, it should be square lying within the astigmatic neutral tunnel funnel. External incision, like in this video, it should be 1.5 millimeter away from the limbus, and we make one vertical incision, and then we go for the corneal tunnel. The length of the tunnel is very important. It should be 1.75 at least 1.5 to 1.75 millimeter, and depth should be 1/3 to half thickness of the sclera. Particularly this sclerocorneal incision is preferred into the pediatric age group. Now, what are the problems with the sclerocorneal incision? If the initial groove is too deep or knife is very sharp, it can cause premature entry. And if the initial groove is shallow or the knife is blunt, it can result in the tearing of or buttonholing of the flap. Now, the most common incision is the clear corneal incision, as it is anterior to the limbal arcade, so it is a clear corneal. It is preferred the method of incision due to many advantage over traditional sclerocorneal incision. It is a shorter procedure time, faster recovery, no conjunctival manipulation or cautery is required, and good for surgery under topical anesthesia. Uh, According to the location, the clear corneal may be temporal, superior, or superiotemporal. Temporal is generally preferred because it induces the less SIA. It is away from the central visual axis and it offers better accessibility to the surgeon due to less brow obstruction as compared to the superior incision. And temporal incision is particularly preferred in cases of against the rule astigmatism, because if we take incision on the temporal side and this axis is steep, so we can reduce astigmatism approximately 1 diopter. If it is more than that, then my preference is better to go for the toric IOL. Now come to the superior incision. If the astigmatism is against the rule, then better to go for the superior clear corneal incision. The procedure is same. Make one vertical incision of 2.5, 2.8 millimeter, then make the intercorneal tunnel and proceed. Now, dimension of the incision, that is width and length, is very important. The width of the incision, that is width, that should be 2.2 to 2.8 millimeter, and it should match the size of the phaco probe, IA tip, or IOL injector. If it is not proportionate to that, there may be chances of the leaky incision, as in this video the size of the incision is more than the phaco tip, so it is coming, the fluid is egressing out, and then it creates a lot of problem during surgery, frequent shallowing of the anterior chamber, endothelial damage, and if you proceed, then it can lead to the rupture of the anterior posterior capsule. Now, dimension of the incision is also very important. If a too narrow incision will restrict the movement of the phaco probe and may obstruct the flow of fluid around the phaco needle, which keep the needle cool, resulting in the wound burn from the frictional heat created during the ultrasonic energy delivery. Length of the incision is also important. Premature entry results in the short tunnel, which leads to the iris prolapse. Like in this case, the tunnel length is less, so all the time the iris is coming out while doing hydro procedures. Particularly in such type of cases, better to suture the incision and make the incision at the another side. So ideal incision should be a square incision. Now, according to the plans, architect, the incision may be uniplanar, biplanar, or triplanar. In the uniplanar incision, what we do, we directly insert the angle keratome into the cornea, and it is in one plane, like in this line diagram we can understand. So it should be done by the experienced surgeon because it requires a lot of experience, and the amount of astigmatism is very less, but the chances of leakage is more with such type of incisions. Now come to the bipolar incision. This is the standard incision. In the bipolar incision, we make the incision in two plane. First is the vertical incision by a angle keratome. So its depth is approximately 300 to 400 micron. Then we proceed into the cornea, and here one should remember that we should follow the contour of the cornea, otherwise there may be tearing of the incision, and then go deep down. So it is a bipolar incision, and it causes less astigmatism as compared to the triplanar. Now come to the triplanar incision. It is very good for the beginner and excellent valvular action due to the three planes. First, with the blade, we make the vertical incision, and then with the help of crescent knife, we make the intercorneal tunnel. After making intercorneal tunnel, we take 2.8 millimeter keratome and go a little bit deep down. So we puncture the anterior chamber. Like in this photograph, you can see this is in the three planes, and this is the OCT picture. Valvular action of this is very good, but it takes longer time, it causes more astigmatism, and sometimes it gives foreign body sensation. Clear corneal incision limitations are there. Healing is slow relatively high surgically induced astigmatism, poor wound stability, and higher rate of post-op endophthalmitis. So nowadays people are doing limbal incision. That is also my preference of the choice. Incision is made near to the limbal arcade. The addition benefit over clear corneal incision, heals more rapidly, less SIA as it is. Disadvantage sometimes ballooning of the conjunctiva and bleeding from the conjunctival vessel. Side port is also very important. It should be 1 to 1.5 millimeter. It should be made near the limbal arcade, so healing is fast and long-term stability. And it should be approximately 60 to 90 degree from the main incision to facilitate the intra-manual procedures. And if the knife should be very sharp all the time, your side port. If it is not very sharp, like in this video, it is difficult to make the side port incision, and then the incision will be ragged, and sometimes there may be chances of the detachment of the Descemet's membrane. So knife should be very sharp. So in conclusion, this fundamental serves as a basis for constructing a good incision for cataract surgery. At the end, hydrate the incision and check its water tightness, because that is very important. If the wound is leaky, then there may be chances of post-operative complications. So better do it good hydration with the syringe, and if incision is then apply the suture. So a well-constructed wound is the first step in the successful surgery for both the surgeons and the patient. Thank you very much for patient hearing. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for giving an idea of different planes of making the incision and giving an idea how to go ahead with the making an incision a perfect one, so that you definitely don't land into complications of the incision. So we'll come to the next talk from Dr. Rakesh Shakya. He is going to tell us how to make a perfect capsular access for the beginners, and how to go ahead with different tools which we can use, particularly making a capsular access a perfect one every time. To Dr. Rakesh Shakya.
Rakesh sir, you are muted. Please unmute yourself, sir.
So good morning to all, and thank you, sir, Nithlani sir, and give the opportunity, and also thank you to the AIS. So the controlling access is the very important step. So how to control when it is extended, when it is actually doing the phaco surgery. My video is working.
It's
not
not
running.
played yet, sir. You have to click play.
Yes. So actually, there are the two forces are required to mainly for performing the access, shearing force and traction force. So these are the two important forces. So initially, you can make a Atrata force set. You can just nick it and then hold it, and then it's in the every quadrant. You can make a access very in the circular fashion very easily, and the Atrata forceps is a better control with the help, but it is depend upon the surgeon choice, and you can make a access with the help of cystitome also. So in the cases of when I make a circular access, so the turbulence between the bag is very easy, and the cortical aspiration will become very easy, and aisle centration is very good. And so the aisle is should be actually covered. The perfect access aisle should be covered the 360 degree. It is up to 5 mm. So when you use the system, the staining is very important. And after the washing the staining and put the visco very big, and chamber should be well formed. And then make up with the help of system, make an actually curve flap and lift it and put the visco behind it. And then after that it's folded over the entry capsule, and then forward movement with the help of the neck of the cystidome. And when you are near the side port, you can put the visco again and then complete the rexis. Sometimes some surgeon actually put the visco in the in the needle syringe, so they can push actually during the when the chamber becomes slightly shallow. And so when you make a circular axis, is the when the chamber is when they make a circular axis, the maneuver in the phacoemulsification is very easy, like the hydro procedure very safe, and the bag is very stretchable, so you can put the oil uh, in uh, in the bag very well. And in cases of sometimes the PCR occur, so the oil saturation very occur. And sometimes when the rexis is extended peripherally, so you can put the visco and apply the little tricks, and you can put the visco and unfold it. First you unfold it and then hold near the base and then pull toward the backward. Initially it put toward the backward, like it hold at the near the base, and it put toward the slightly backward and then centrally according to the in the horizontal, and then according to the circumference of the rexis. And when you are in the track, then you can easily make the circular rexis, and you can just see with the help of dialer. So this the rexis not go beyond the equator. So after that, the phacoemulsification is very easy. If the axis is regular, it may be slightly oval shape, but is okay. And the oil always should be added slightly and the perpendicular to the tear, so the concentration is very less. Sometimes in the case of the intumescent cataract, sometimes the axis go in the two sides. So that this is the Argentinian flag sign. So what to do in this type of cases when the axis is so in this cases of also control the axis during the phacoemulsification. So immediately stop the performing the axis, and AC should be high molecular weight viscoelastic. And make sure nothing pressing the globe like fingers, lid speculum, or squeezing leg. Initially, you can remove the slightly mild amount of the cortex to reduce the pressure under that. So you can control it and with the help of the Bonner seizure, and make us cut the semicircular fashion. And both half of the semicircular you can convert in the slightly circular fashion. So during the phacoemulsification, to how to control it? So just actually aspirate it first, and then keep the this probe slightly supracapsular. So the chances of stretching or chances of the extension slightly very less. So you can control it during the phaco also. So rexis should be like when the rexis is extended. So you should be controlled during the IL implantation. Also sometimes the rexis is extended posteriorly. So the IL also implant in the bag, haptic should be slightly perpendicular to the extended margin. And then sometimes you can put the pilocarpine also. So in this type of cases like the intumescent cataract where the interlenticular passage is slightly higher. So initially rexis you can initially rexis puncture it and then aspirate the some amount of the fluid with the help of the needle, and then you always make a small rexis. Initially you make a small rexis and then cut it with the help of Bonner seizure, and then convert it into the second stage capsule rexis. So after that, maneuver becomes very easy, and then you can chop the nucleus and then implant the IL very easy. Sometimes in the case of sometimes the pupil is undilated, you can put the iris hook and then make a nick. Sometimes the capsule is slightly fibrosis. So after nicking the nucleus and fluid is come out, to put the visco and then it is converted, go very gently, and here where the fibrosis occur, you can just see here the fibrosis occur that we can't actually do the rexis. So first you put the visco and then flatten the this flap, and then just hold it near the center and then go centrally.
Please sum up.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh Shastri, for giving us the tips of how to make a capsular access a perfect one. And a very important tip to stain the capsule, the entire capsule, particularly for the beginners who definitely find difficulty in handling the entire capsule. Even if they see the red reflex, it is always advisable to stain the axis for the beginners to make it assure that whatever they are doing in a perfect manner. So coming to the next topic, which is being covered by me, the hydro procedures and tackling the different nuclei. Let me just share my slide. This is shared. And coming to the hydro procedures, can we start the timer? Because last time I find difficulty. Yes, please start the time. So this is a very important procedures, the hydro procedures and tackling the different nuclei. What are the prerequisites, particularly when you are handling the different nuclei? A thorough slit lamp examination to identify the variety of the cataract, whether it is a nuclear, cortical, or posterior subcapsular. The pupillary size has to be enough, particularly for the beginners. It should be more than 7 millimeters or 8 millimeters. Rather, it has to be a full dilated one. The grade of cataract, if you know that you can use a judicious power, phaco power, capsular access is optimized so that your maneuverability is fine enough to deal with the nucleus. Hydro procedures, they make the nucleus free in the bag. Proper settings is very important to avoid the complications of zonules, and thus to avoid the surge, protect the endothelium, and how to minimize the time. These things are to be learned. Just to see the grading of nucleus, there's a anterocortical portion, there's a posterior cortical portion. Here lies the nucleus. So as the density of the nucleus increases, you can have a grade 1 to grade 3 and 4 and 5. Apart from it, you can have a cortical nucleus or posterior subcapsular cataract occupying the different size or the different volume of the pupillary area to grade the nucleus. And just coming to the video particularly, which is being meant and going to share. Yes, this is a hydro procedure. Try to see the red wave it is going and try to decompensate. Otherwise, there's a ballowing of posterior capsule and the posterior capsule can go away. This is a very important procedure while doing the hydro procedure. Make the nucleus free from the bag and try to rotate it. How to rotate the nucleus in the bag, it is again very important. Go at the level of the axis just beneath it, push a nucleus little down and move clockwise or anti-clockwise the way you want to do it. And that's going to make the nucleus free in capsular bag. So this is a divide and conquer. Take the epinucleus from the from the upper part of the nucleus, and then you can reach the proper nuclear place. Always try to do first with the grade 2 nucleus and hydrodelinate, so that you need to know that yes, this is the limit of the nucleus and this is how uh, place where you want to really go to make a trench. Trench has to be at least 2/3 depth of the total thickness of the nucleus. Rotate it 90 degree. Once the linear trench is met, rotate it 90 degree, make another trench, and once again rotate it by 180 degrees so that you make a kind of a square, the doctor square particularly that we see to and this is how it is ready to divide into the four quadrants. Take a use of two instruments. It could be either phaco tip and the chopper itself, or it could be the two choppers. Keep rotating and try to divide all the four quadrants separately to make them separate and each away from each other. This is very important. If something is, I mean to say, entangled between the two chunks of the nucleus, you find difficulty in retrieving it individually. Then try to retrieve it individually. This is how, check your settings and try to retrieve it without any problem. This is another case where I'm going to show the horizontal chop. This is a mature cataract. Start from 12 o'clock, go deep into the core of a nucleus, go into the periphery with chopper, try to approximate the phaco tip down at the level of the chopper, bring it close and then separate apart. This is how the horizontal chop is going to work. And this, after rotating the nucleus by 90 degree, you can chop it again and can make four quadrants of the nucleus itself, or maybe you can use more, divide more of the quadrants to emulsify the small chunks depending upon the size of the nucleus you are dealing with. So this is very important to have a proper vacuum and the setting of the machine. This, coming with the vertical chop, again to start with at 12 o'clock, reach up to the level of the core of the nucleus, just cross a little bit of it and try to embed the sharp chopper at the mid periphery so that it should not reach up to the level of the posterior capsule, and then bring it your phaco tip close to the chopper and then separate it. The vertical chopper itself has already gone up to the depth of the nucleus thickness. Once the nucleus tip is close to that chopper, it will definitely separate the two chunks when you try to separate them. So reaching up to the proper depth and the proper level of the nucleus is very important while you are doing this chop method or dividing the nucleus with the different modalities. Once you have done, depending upon the thickness and the density of the nucleus, you can divide into four quadrants, six quadrants, or eight quadrants, and try to see that the last plate of the nucleus has been divided very nicely. This is a very important thing that you must understand. And thereafter, you can definitely take them away one after another. So this is how the apex of the one pie has been uh, caught and engulfed as a phacoemulsification. If it is entangled, you can just move or rotate it so that it gets separated, and you definitely take away the different the pie which you have made from the vertical chop. Now coming to the hard nucleus, which is you can either do a divide and conquer, and this method I'm just doing and going away just 30 seconds more. I'm just going away with stop and chop, make a trench, reach to the desired level of thickness of the nucleus, at least two-thirds, and use a good and appropriate vacuum to hold the nucleus. And this is how you can bring the nucleus little towards you, and then with a vertical chop, go deep into the nucleus core, bring your phaco tip close to the chopper, and this is how you divide it. And coming to the posterior polar cataract, this is again very important thing that you should not lead into the posterior capsular rent. In these cases, after taking out the epinucleus, you have to hydrodelineate the nucleus itself, because you have to find out what is the extent of the nucleus itself. This is a brown ring or the golden brown ring, and try to take out this nucleus first without disturbing the plaque in the cortical plate. You can use a side port or the second instrument particularly to dislodge the nucleus from the bag itself, and this is how the nucleus is taken away. Once it is taken out, with the irrigating port which is moving behind the capsular axis with the passive hydration, you can see this plaque which is lying here is lifted up, and this is how we say this is a floating sign, and you can avoid the posterior capsular rent in these cases. Thank you for patient listening. So this was a hydro procedure and tackling the different nuclei. Now we are coming to the next step of irrigation and aspiration. May I invite Dr. O.P. Agarwal to kindly continue and tell us how to begin with irrigation aspiration for a beginner. Dr. O.P. Agarwal, please. Is he not here?
No, sir.
So we'll go to Dr. Chaudhary straightforward, and we'll ask Dr. O.P. Agarwal to cover after Dr. Chaudhary finishes.
He is
So,
coming, sir.
OP, you are muted. You kept your. So should I start?
No, if Dr. O.P. Agarwal is ready, we
OP,
can
you are muted yourself. OP.
OP,
Dr.
sir, you are muted, sir.
I think he has been entangled at some place of the internet. Dr. Chaudhary, sir, you please kindly go ahead with the safe IOL implantation. We can have this irrigation aspiration afterwards.
This is visible.
Yes, sir, it is all visible.
So after completion, good morning to all. After completion of successful cataract surgery, the aim is to implant the intraocular lens safely. Executing IOL perfectly is the goal at the end of the surgery, because all rexis, everything is required to place the lens IOL properly. So for that prerequisite, we know good incision size, well central rexis, intact posterior capsule, intact zonules. You need a thorough cortical cleanup, well-maintained antechamber, and that can be given in the bag implantation. So there are the various types of implantation. I will go. This is a course for beginners, so I will cover the basics of this. How to non-foldable IOL. This you need to give an incision size 5.25 to 5.5 mm. Good viscoelastic in the place. This is the video. The incision is enlarged to 5.5. Take the lens, pick it from the optic haptic junction. So it should not give a scratch in the center. Dial this lens forward haptics inside the bag. And this is the important step, that's bending and folding, rotating the haptic. So it form a knee and it will go into the bag. This is the foldable. This can be used with the folder. Once the forceps is required to fold the lens. And again, the second one is to hold the lens, this acris of lens. Pick. And this should be at the forward end. And this can be pushed inside the bag. This is how you hold it. Then injector, this is important that you inject the more viscoelastic in the tunnel instead of this, because if you put more viscoelastic layer, you may not be able to see the haptics, and this haptics may catch up between the these flanges of the cartridge, and that can give the tear. So once it is there, you lodge into the injector, and then this your injector ready. And with the adequate size of the wound, you can push it into the gently. And meanwhile, once you pull back, so haptic should not be caught between your injector. And this can be gently pushed inside the. Now we have so many preloaded, so this job become easier. You have to see the system of that preloading system. There are different lenses with a different system to save. Inject the viscoelastic inside, and there is a holes inside. You can inject that lens, and you pull this button forward, so lens is ready for injection. This is the Hoya lens. and gently by rotating. They are the safe. Only thing you have to take care that your incision size is adequate, and then later on you can. This is how you toric for the beginner. You may not have the Varion and other fancy gadget, just in the OT standing 180. Either you can do with the slit lamp also. Once you are marked, the important thing is to mark the axis. Once you mark the axis, inject the lens. Remove the visco first. Slightly keep this toric marker away from 15 degree away from the center before, because once you remove the visco, it will rotate. Once you remove the viscose, then with the fluid on, you can just see that you have properly placed the axis. We leave the, then for the multifocal, that all the precautions are the same. Only thing that important point is to take care of the placement of the center of the, you have to see once you have placed inside the brake, you should take care for the Purkinje images that should be in the center of the optics. So there may be a difficult scenario where your axis iris fluorescence is there. So you should cover it with the OVD or iris and insert with the bevel down and then reorientate into it. Then in cases of subluxate cataract, you have to use the ring and hooks, which is a different and big topic, which we may not be able to cover in this small. This is a small video in the pre-existing here, how we can, so that can be taken into account that when you have the rain, you put the triamcinolone, do good anterior vitrectomy, and then gradually push the lens, and that you can still put in the bake gently 3-piece lens, and then with the help of a stretcher guiding this lens into, and later on you can do the optic capture. There may be different problems. Sometimes that haptics remain in the SC. This is a more common with the beginner. So once it is there, you can use an spatula to guide, spatula is placed under the axis, so that loop guides very well into the back. You can see that the spatula is helping you to guide that haptics inside the back. Sometimes that your haptic is reverse injected upside down, so you can with the good viscoelastic slightly push and try lens down, and you can rotate and flip it inside. Sometimes haptic is broken, so you have to cut it, gently remove it with the simple forceps and holding with the, you can remove it. This is one of the things you have to take care that anytime the jerky movement, you can injure the iris, and so you should be careful, and at a good surgery will give an apprehension at the end of the surgery. So your movement should be gentle. Maybe I have covered the PCR. So in short, proper IOL implantation along with all these steps give the wow effect post-operatively. That is the ultimate goal of the surgeon. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chaudhary, sir, for excellent surgical videos of implanting different variety of IOL in different scenario and how to tackle them at different steps in a cases like PCR, the small pupil, the extended axis, and particularly how to use the second instrument to tumble the IOL in the bag with a easy maneuver. So thanks. And now I invite Dr. O.P. Agarwal for illustrating the irrigation aspiration process in a phacoemulsification for the beginners? Dr. O.P. Agarwal, please.
Yeah. My screen is visible.
Yes, your slide is visible. Make it full
Yes, sir.
mode. And
So,
you
good
need to
morning.
come a little closer because your voice is muffled.
Audible?
Audible, but come close little bit so that you are more audible,
Okay. Okay.
better audible.
So I have to speak on precautions during irrigation and aspiration.
Closer, sir. Come closer.
For proper irrigation, why the proper irrigation and aspiration is essential to decrease the incidence of post-operative uveitis and chances of PCO. We have learned FACO, and we have found that PCR most frequently occur during irrigation and aspiration stage by beginners. So it is very important step to learn. I always suggest that before learning FACO procedure, we have to learn irrigation and aspiration first, and then we have to shift to manage the nuclear fragmentation. So there are three different modules available, like coaxial irrigation, bimanual, and sometimes we may need Simco also. So if I talk about coaxial irrigation and aspiration, IA tip is smooth, rounded with aspiration orifice in front and sleeve for irrigation made of silicon or metal. And this irrigating ports are 180-degree apart. Angulations on tip be 45-degree or 90-degree, or sometimes it may be straight depending on the surgeon's choice. The 45-degree tip is preferable, which is more acceptable for removal of subincisional cortex also. In bimanual irrigation and aspiration, these are the separate aspiration and infusion cannulas. The two side ports or one side port and main port at 150-degree to 180-degree apart, used for IA. And sometimes we may need manual cannula like Simco cannula, and this is used for removal of subincisional cortex, if which is more difficult with coaxial IA. If we don't have a bimanual, then we can use Simco through side ports also. And most of the time we use this when there are PCR. I'm audible properly?
Yeah.
Sir.
Yes, you are audible.
And irrigation and aspiration flow, irrigation and infusion flow depends on diameter of irrigation tube, size of orifices in the tip, and height of irrigation bottle, which we have to learn during learning IA. This depends on diameter of tube and orifices and vacuum set on the machine also. If we'll talk about the procedure which I'll show in my video, the most important step is proper and thorough hydrodissection, so that all the cortex should be loosened and can be removed properly. We have to enter with fully formed anterior chamber in foot pedal 0 with infusion off. We should not enter with infusion on. Aspirate any air bubble to improve visibility during IA. With aspiration orifices facing down, enter underneath the anterior capsule. With aspiration orifices facing down, enter underneath the anterior capsule. Hold cortex, create vacuum, foot position 1 and 2. Pull cortex to center and then aspirate. Repeat the same movement in small segments in peeling motion. So when you enter always remove air first and then enter in the anterior chamber. So whatever the air present in the anterior chamber, first aspirate the air, then slowly go beneath the anterior capsule, hold the cortical matter, just hold, move it, separate it from the capsule, pull to the center of the pupillary area, and then aspirate. You start from one uh, segment and then move right or left, whatever you prefer. So always first engage the cortical matter, pull it in the central area, and then aspirate. For this, your vision should be clear, that you can able to see everything clearly. You should not catch the anterior capsule. For removing subincisional cortex, slightly keep your sleeves away from orifice, go towards 6 o'clock position, then move your angular tip, go behind the capsular axis margin, engage the cortical matter, pull it towards the central, and then aspirate. No aspiration near capsular axis margin. Just engage the cortex, pull it, and then aspirate. This is very important. We have to learn how to hold, engage the cortex, then we have to pull it, and then aspirate in the central pupillary area. Even with the help of coaxial IA tip, we can polish the posterior capsule also. We may use bimanual IA. It depends on surgeon's preference. Many of the surgeons prefer to use bimanual irrigation and aspiration. For bimanual irrigation and aspiration, first we have to insert the irrigating port and then the aspiration. This is easier for beginners to learn with bimanual. But if you want to avoid the second side port incision, you can learn the regular coaxial irrigation and aspiration hand IA cannula. So with this, removal of subincisional cortex is also very easy. So this is how we can use bimanual. Here, I would like to mention one thing, that this side ports which we creates, this side port, primary side port for phaco, it should be smaller initially when we are doing phaco. Otherwise, if this side port will leak, it will be difficult to do phaco. The size of the side port should be proper for irrigation and aspiration also. Next. In complicated, difficult cases, the risky cases, residual IA can be done after implantation of lens. We have to implant the lens, we have to rotate the lens, it will loosen the cortex, and then we can aspirate the remaining cortical matters. Dialing of IOL will loosen it and we can remove it. Any faults on posterior capsule means you are holding it. Release vacuum and come back to foot position 0. Inject viscoelastic through side port. Dislodge the posterior capsule, and then we can go ahead with IA. We have to check for PCR. Continue IA if no rent is found. If we hold the rhexis margin, there are chances of zonular dialysis. We have to release the vacuum immediately. We have to come to foot position 0
Please
and
come up.
continue. If there is any zonular dialysis, then we have to implant endocapsular ring and then we can continue. Always better to underdo IA than create a PCR. Sometimes it is very difficult to remove the sticky cortex. Then a small amount of cortex, if we are not able to remove it or separate it from the capsule, we can leave it there, rather than creating a posterior capsular rupture. Proper focus of the PC during the whole procedure of the IA is very important. Keep vacuum low in initial stages of learning curve, but I'll prefer that if keeping very low vacuum will also not good in initial stages. Just a moderate vacuum will be good. Proper incision is important to prevent collapse of anterior chamber. We have to refill the anterior chamber with viscoelastic repeat in between to keep the anterior chamber maintained. IA setting to prevent the surge.
Thank you, Dr. OP, for illustrating the different modes of doing irrigation aspiration and how to use coaxial, bimanual, and the Simcoe cannula to get you away from the difficult situation. We have got at least 10, 15 minutes left. Probably in the beginning, we cut short our presentation. So at least we have got 10, 15 minutes for the discussion. So in that scenario, I would like to ask few of the questions to our presenters. First of all, I would like to ask Dr. Paresh, what would be the best height of a machine to keep particularly in level with the head or the eye level so that you get the things optimized? Dr. Paresh, if you're there.
Yes, sir. Sir, basically, with the newer machines, there are set diameters for patient to eye level. So we have to set that machine level to the patient eye. And with the older generation machines, we should usually keep around 10 inches below, above the eye level of the patient. Also, sir, bottle height is a very important factor. In cases where we need high aspiration, we need to keep the bottle height above. Also, if the bottle height is high, the aspiration should be increased, because if the aspiration is not that much, we won't be getting the attraction forces.
So you need to titrate the things in between. If machine is at the optimum level, you can have all the parameters to work fine enough at the optimum level what you require, particularly with the different variety of cases. So you need to keep the machine at optimum level, and simultaneously the bottle height has to be titrated so as to go ahead with the cases fair enough without any complications. Thank you. And now I come to Dr. Gupta, sir, and we would like to ask him something regarding making an incision. There are chances, particularly when a beginner starts doing surgery with the hasty movement, he might get into a irregular kind of incision. One is this, how to deal. Second is the leaky incision, particularly, and what would be your preference to allow a beginner, whether it's a corneoscleral incision or the clear corneal incision?
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, you are audible.
To answer to your first question, in the irregular incisions, because in the agitation they make it, and because of gabrat and so many things. So first, your blade should be proper. You should use either steel blade or diamond blade. It should be sharp enough and it should not be blunt. Second, if the incision is irregular, means what is the, I mean to say, whether it is the width is more or the length. If the length is more, so lengthwise, if the incision is irregular, more lengthy incision will leads to the problems like maneuverability of the instruments inside the eye is difficult, and during phacosurgery the cornea becomes hydrated, so the other further surgery is difficult. If it is short one, if the length of the incision is corneal incision is short, then it will be leaky. And if the egress of the fluid or the leaky wound is a smaller one, and if the phaco is soft one, pupil is well dilated, if it is an ideal case, then one can proceed with the few, I mean to say, adjustment with the bottle height, and then with the parameters of the phaco, and we can adjust it. If the iris is prolapsing all the time, hello?
Yes, you're audible. Go
If the
ahead.
iris is prolapsing because of the leaky wound, then better to suture the wound and make the wound at the another side. As your third question is concerned regarding the sclerocorneal or the clear corneal incision, my preference is clear corneal, and that too limbal incision, because clear corneal incision is sometimes leaky. Its stability is not as good as the limbal incision. In limbal incision, there is some problem during phaco. The fluid might egress out of the wound, and there is a conjunctival ballooning, so we can rupture it and manage it. If the wound is very tight, and if you detect it as early as possible, so chances of the corneal burn will be very less. But in sclerocorneal incision, if the person is very beginner, then he can try with the sclerocorneal incision as well, because if he wants to convert it into the non-phaco, I mean to say SICS, the conversion is very easy. This is all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Gupta, for giving us the fine tips for the beginners. And now I come to Dr. Rakesh Akia. He might put a comment for the previous question as well. My question is very simple. You need to make our access perfect. Is there any measurement tool that would you like to use particularly so as to give you a central access? Something that kind of tool can be used by a beginner. And the second question would be, how would you enlarge the axis, particularly when you lead into a smaller axis? This usually happens with the beginner. They try to do a small axis because we always say that 5 millimeter or 5.5 millimeter is the ideal situation. So they always try to make a small axis, and later, while dealing with the nucleus, they find difficulty. So, how
Sir, am I
to
audible?
enlarge the axis? Any tool that gives a perfect axis size? Dr. Rakesh. Are you there, Dr. Rakesh?
Hello, am I audible?
Rakesh is not there. It's not visible.
Yeah.
Yes, Rakesh, go ahead, please.
Sir,
Dr. Rakesh.
am I audible?
Okay. Yeah. Now you are audible.
Yes.
Good.
So initially, sir, when you make a axis during मान लीजिए if the axis is very small, so chamber should be actually deepen the chamber first is very important, and keep the use the magnification use the slightly high magnification, and you can use the high molecular weight viscoelastic and just cut the banas with the help of the Bonus seizure, and it should be the radial cut, not the straight cut. So you can make rexes in the second fashion. So you can enlarge it, and just after the cutting the radial cut, you can just hold near the base and then rotate in the quadrant wise. When you in the one quadrant, you put the visco and flatten the capsular tag over the anterior capsule, and then you can use the second stage technique. And the quadrant wise, at least you grasp up to 4 times, and you can make a another axis, and you can enlarge it very deep. Sometimes the axis is inside the iris, and how to enlarge it in the centrally. So you can go backward and then go centrally and make a another way to make a axis. Second question is the what is the any equipment? There are the many equipment are available in the market. They are the circular rings of the plastic you can put over the cornea. It is about the 5 to 5.5 mm. Sometimes when the rings is not available, you can just dip the Sinskey hook in the Trypan blue dye, and you can mark it the cornea in the 4 point, and you can easily go this marking, and you can make the easily rexes in the circular figure. And rexes should be, it is about 5 and 5.5 mm. That's it.
Thank you, Dr. Rakesh, for giving us an idea of that and the tools we use to make a capsular access perfect every time. So we would suggest for a beginner to use these kinds of tools so that they can master their access with that size, and gradually with the experience they can keep doing the size according to the reflex of the light that they get from the microscope. Now I am coming to Dr. O.P. Agarwal sir for how to deal with sticky cortical material, and what would you advise particularly for taking out the cortical material from 12 o'clock for the beginners?
Very good question, Dr. Vijay. As I already mentioned in my lecture, that if there is very sticky material and if we are not able to remove it by any means, what means we can use, that I am going to discuss. We can leave it. If it is a very small cortex, sticky cortex, and not able to remove, then we can leave it rather than creating a PCR. But if it is a sub-incisional cortex and it is sticky cortex, then we have to use bimanual IA. The bimanual IA is a very good tool by which we can remove the sub-incisional cortex very easily. If bimanual IA is not available, then we can enlarge one of the side port incision, and we can very well use manual Simcoe cannula. That is also very good in this type of sticky cortex. If it is sticky and not able to remove, then what we have to do, we have to implant the lens first. We have to rotate the lens 2 or 3 times. Sometimes that will dislodge the cortical matter, and we can very well remove it. And I just want to answer your last question to Dr. Rakesh Shake also. How to make the central circular 5.5 or 5 millimeter capsular axis without femto-assisted laser. In that, if our pupil is properly dilated, as we are using this image-guided Varion, in the same way, each and everyone can use image-guided pupil. If pupil is properly dilated, we can guide our capsular axis through pupillary margin. Whatever the distance we start our capsular axis from the pupillary margin, just see the pupillary margin and do capsular axis. In more than 80% of cases, your capsular axis will be centered and well circular. That you can see. As we guide our capsular axis with Varion image guided system, the same we can use with pupillary margin, dilated pupillary margin. We have to be 1.5 or 2 millimeter inside the pupillary margin, and you will see fantastic capsular axis. This I also use many times, and this is a good way to do it.
Thank you, Dr. O.P. Agarwal, for giving us the tips. The beginners who are accustomed with the Simcoe cannula, that is a fantastic instrument. And the other tip is that before starting phaco, the acclimatization with irrigation aspiration is one of the important things. So get acclimatized with irrigation aspiration. That gives you a kind of liberty to jump in a better manner for doing the phaco surgery. One question to our Chaudhary sir, how about the wound size when you are delivering the IOL, the different variety of IOLs matters particularly because you need to protect the endothelium and the Descemet membrane and all those issues. And what would be the advantages and disadvantages of wound-assisted IOL delivery?
Your wound site should be adequate according to your lens and injector, what you are going to inject. There is 2 ways. You can inject the cartridge inside, or you can do with the wound assisted technique. Wound assisted technique, you just give you some advantage of that minor 0.2 mm incision size will be less as compared to the cartridge. So it is not a much advantage, but doing the phaco surgery with the smaller wound give a more control. A good chamber maintenance is required for the phaco surgery, more stable chamber with the smaller size. So if you want, you can slightly increase, and you can, if you don't want to do an extra maneuver, the expert surgeon can do with the wound assisted. So wound assisted will help you just to prevent you one extra step of slightly enlarging the rexis from 1.8 1.82. So most of the lens will go with the 2.2 very well. So in this way, according to your lens, you have to calibrate the effect on the astigmatism will be the negligible.
Thank you, sir, for giving us an idea that what should be the appropriate size of a wound, so as to avoid the complications related with the descemet membrane rupture and rubbing against the endothelium. One, in the beginning, must use the appropriate size of a wound to deliver the nucleus. Don't hesitate to make it to 2.8 or 3, depending upon the size of cartridge that you want to use. At the end, I would just simply say that while dealing with the different nuclei, the hydrodissection is very important. You need to deal with hydrodissection, rotate the nucleus. If it is not rotating, try to rotate, do more of a hydrodissection, and keep using viscoelastic, particularly each and every step of a nucleus phacoemulsification that protects the endothelium. So this is how we come to the end of this session. We all thank to AIOS and the scientific committee for including this session for the beginners, the learning phaco and the teaching trouble.
Thank you.
Thanks to all coordinators. Thanks to all our speakers.
Thank you so much.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much,
Wonderful,
Dr.
wonderful
Nislani, for
session.
chairing this session, and all to the respected doctors for such an informative session, to Dr. Rajiv Chaudhary, Dr. Agarwal, Dr. Paresh Nichlani, Dr. Rakesh. Thank you so much for being the part of AIOC. So we conclude here. I hope this discussion has been ended.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
all.
you so
Thank you,
much.
sir. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.
Thanks
Take
to
care.
all of you.
Thank you, Chaudhary sir. Thank you, Agarwal
Okay.
sir.
Thank you, Rakesh. Thank you, sir. Chaudhary sir. Vijay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks to everyone.
Okay, Rakesh. Bye.